Hello my friend, it's very good to be back with you to bring you a new topic for this season. And if you've been with us before and you've followed the videos before, you'll know that we've been talking most recently about the chakra system and how that affects us on every level of our lives. And I'd like to introduce to you a new topic this time. This will be the introductory video to this particular topic, and what I want to get into today is this topic of the 4 Brahmaviharas, which are a set of virtues, a set of divine attributes which we ourselves can attain to. And I'm very excited to be bringing this new topic to you because I think it's something that we all, as meditators, can really benefit from and getting into. So to start with, I'd like to say that really this topic almost sort of leads on from the topic of the chakras, and you'll see why. Now, the chakra system is probably more familiar to those who follow the yogic practices, and the Brahmaviharas might very well be more familiar to those who follow the Buddhist style of meditation. But if we just rewind a little bit, we'll actually find that although this particular topic, the Brahmaviharas, is most commonly found within Buddhist teaching, it actually originated in the earlier yogic teachings. Now, that's not to say that Buddha himself and his successive Buddhas and other followers that came after him didn't develop this. They certainly did. They certainly developed the ideas, and they've certainly brought it to the place that we understand today. But I'd like to give credit to the yogic founders, because Buddha himself referred back at times to these as being something that he'd learnt in his youth. And of course he grew up in India and would have learnt the yogic ways and those sort of ancient teachings, which as the word, we know the word yoga means to unite every part of the body, basically. So we've got the yoga asanas for the physical body, then we've got meditation, and we've got other practices, the Ayurvedic traditions and things like that to do with food and ceremony and everything else that goes along with it. But those teachings are very, very old, going back thousands and thousands of years. So like meditation itself, this particular concept is steeped way back in that sort of history. So that's just to give you a little bit of background. But why I say it leads on from the topic of the chakras is the fact that we looked at the chakras as being the 7 major chakras that we find in the body, and of course the lower 3, known as the lower chakras, actually sort of correspond to those sort of basic attributes of every human being. Things like but survival instincts we saw at the root chakra, then moving up to the sacral chakra we saw sort of pleasure on various different levels of our being, creativity, things like that, wanting to kind of express ourselves through that sort of creative direction, and wanting to enjoy ourselves after we've kind of met those basic needs. And then moving on to the solar plexus, we saw how that was to do with our control and sort of influencing, taking control of our lives, and often it's synonymous with the sort of the building of the ego, which is something that we build from an early age. As we've said before, it's not the true self, it's a false self. The ego is a character that we are portraying in this particular drama or even comedy of the life that we are living at the moment. So Those are the lower ones. The higher ones start from the heart chakra, the Anahata center, where we start to look not just at our own needs, our own pleasures, our own kind of wishes and will, but we start to kind of look out at other people and how we interact with others in the world. And that follows on through the throat chakra with our communication with others, of course. And then we start to go to the even higher ones where we're looking at kind of connection with the divine, as in the Ajna third eye and the Sahasrara crown chakra as well, where the divine meets the human. And we saw that the heart chakra itself is kind of where those energies meet as well. So the energy that's coming down from above, from the crown, and the energy that's coming up from the root, the Kundalini energy, they meet, as it were, at the point of the heart chakra. And so that heart chakra is a very important center. It's a very powerful center. And in a lot of ways, when we look at this topic of the Brahmaviharas, we are looking at something that's very heart-centered, that's very key to this particular teaching. So what are the Brahmaviharas? Well, they are, as I say, they're a set of attributes. They're a set of virtues, if you like. They are something that we can sort of aspire to, if you like, in our lives. It's something that's a little bit more advanced than just chakras, which we all have chakras, and as we looked and saw, we need to balance those, and we need to open them and get the energy, the prana energy flowing through our bodies on the various different levels. We looked at the fact that we don't just have a physical body, but we have the other bodies, the etheric body, the astral body, etc., etc., which all bodies within bodies, if you like. And the chakra points are those portals between those dimensions of the different aspects of our being. So when we come to something like this, first of all, it's good, I think, to understand the word itself. So Brahma is the main sort of creator god in the Hindu traditions, and he's seen as this god that's got four faces. One looks to the north, one to the south, one to the east, and one to the west. So he's looking out in all four directions, and as the creator god, he obviously has got the sort of the highest, the best interests, if you like. He's the most sort of benevolent God, really, because he's the one that brought everything into existence. He caused the creation of everything in the traditions. So we're looking at a picture of a being that is putting everything into existence, really. And beyond that, the word vihara actually means dwelling place, abode. It's a word that's often used for temples. We heard of viharas in certain parts of the world where we'll find sort of temples. These are known as viharas. So it's almost like Brahmaviharas are sort of the dwelling places of the divine, but I want you to think of them really as almost like attributes, because they're kind of where the divine dwells, and he actually, or this creator, source, powerful character of the divine Brahma himself actually is indwelling in these particular concepts, in these particular attributes. So then they're known as the four immeasurables. In other words, we're not really looking at sort of what level am I at. Am I at level 1, I'm at level 4, level 7, or whatever, with sort of 1 being the lower level and then 10 sort of being God or whatever. We're not looking at that. We're looking at something that's immeasurable. and immeasurable in the fact that we could work on these all of our lifetimes and there'd still be more work to do. We could still go further, because you're talking about something that's got sort of an infinite capacity, an infinite amount of scope to develop, really, for want of a better and clearer word. So the one that probably more of you may have heard is metta. And we have a type of meditation that's called metta meditation, which is very commonly practiced in Buddhism, also known as loving kindness. So with loving kindness meditation, it's really a kind of an overarching kind of principle, which kind of brings in all the other three in one sense. It's kind of the basis for it. So of course, when we're looking at loving kindness or love itself, we are coming from a place of the heart. So this takes us, of course, straight back to the heart chakra. So when we're looking at loving kindness itself, we're looking at a concept of what you'd find in, say, the Christian religion, the Christian faith, where you would talk about a love that is unconditional. You know, Christians will speak about the fact of God's love being unconditional. And really, this in essence is what we're talking about when we talk about metta, loving kindness. It's an unconditional love. So it's a love towards kind of everybody, every being. It's not conditional on whether I like somebody, whether they've been nice to me, whether they have been horrible to me, whether I respect them, don't respect them, whether I know them closely, or whether they're just sort of a passerby in the street. It doesn't really matter. The whole point with loving kindness itself is it extends out to everybody. So this practice, and the heart of the four Brahmaviharas themselves, is the fact that this is something that's universal. And of course we were looking at the concept of universal consciousness when we looked at the chakra system. So this is something that very much ties into that, and the understanding and the concept of us all being part of one universal consciousness helps us to understand why, in fact, we want to extend our love out to everybody else. And this doesn't just it's not limited to human beings. It's limited to all beings, all creatures, whether they're animals, you know, whether it's other beings from other dimensions, you know, whatever your concept is, whether it be angels, demons, aliens, beings that we don't understand, can't even comprehend. It literally goes right out there to everything, every potential in the universe, if you like. Not just this universe, but every dimension. It's that overarching, it's that comprehensive that it covers kind of everybody. Eventually, and I say eventually because I'm talking about with the four Brahmaviharas as something which is a concept that we build upon. So if metta is the starting block of this, and the concept is to kind of extend that love, or you could look at it in the terms of friendliness almost. It's almost like being a friend to everybody that we meet. That's kind of the principle behind it. So without going too far into that, I'll go to the next one, which is karuna, which means compassion. And compassion we can look at as if we see the misfortune, the suffering, the problems that somebody else is going through. Compassion is our reaction to that in a positive way. In other words, they're coming alongside somebody that is having some sort of misfortune, having a bad time. You know, it could be something simple like kind of putting your arm around somebody. The word karuna itself comes from the same root as the word karma, and karma means action, really. In whatever your understanding of the concept of karma, it comes from a root word which means action. It's an active thing. It's something that actively takes place. So I'm not just talking about with compassion, sort of feeling sympathy and kind of feeling sorry for somebody, but not doing anything about it, really. It's kind of more of an active action word of compassion. So it's the fact that we see somebody in misfortune, you know, whatever the circumstances may be. Say we're driving down the road and we see somebody has broken down, and, you know, we stop the car, we get out and we help them to change the tyre on the car, something like that. You know, that's compassion at work, you know, that kind of thing. It could be rescuing a kitten that we found. We're having compassion for that creature. We're extending our compassion towards them. And again, it's, when I say unconditional, it comes out of unconditional love, because as with metta, we're not looking for a payback from it. We're not saying, okay, I'll be compassionate to you, but I want this back in return, because that's not compassion. Okay, if you say, you know what, oh, I see you're in a terrible state here, let me help you, or that'll be £50, please. I'm sorry, but that's not really compassion. That's just a monetary transaction. Okay, or even helping somebody because we want their thanks in return. You know, okay, we could show them compassion, but it's to do with motives and our motivations behind those actions as much as it is in the actual doing of it. And that's an important point. To look at the other side of karuna, we have mudita, which is roughly translated to sympathetic joy. Although that doesn't really kind of explain a lot, does it? Well, let me explain to you a little bit. So really this concept is somebody, they're not going through terrible hardships like with karuna, that we have to extend our compassion to them. They're actually in a good place. They're actually doing well. Maybe they've achieved something. Maybe they've received something. Maybe they're just in a happy place. Maybe it's their birthday. You know, maybe they're just full of the joy of life. And it's our sympathetic joy, it's our empathy with that makes us happy for them as well. Okay, now the basic human reaction to this might be, oh, well, I don't know why they've had this. I don't know why it's happened to them. Well, I deserve it more than they do, you know. And then it can turn to something like jealousy, resentment, you know, even sort of wishing that it hadn't come to them, but it had come to you instead. That's the opposite of mudita. Mudita is actually being pleased, being overjoyed for the other person when something good is happening to them. And a little analogy I could give you is, it's like it doesn't cost you anything to be happy for somebody else when they're happy, to kind of join in with their happiness. In the same way as I can take a candle and I can light another candle from it. It doesn't detract from this candle, it doesn't take anything off that candle at all, but for the other candle to share in the light that's coming from this candle. So really we can share in others' joy, and we can increase our own joy. That's not the purpose for doing it, to join in their joy so that we can receive more joy, but that's a natural byproduct, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. It actually helps us to develop a greater joy within ourselves. And one thing that I didn't mention about karuna is that what we don't want to do with karuna, on the flip side of it, is if we are being compassionate to somebody, if we are being, showing them that particular kindness, as it were, with it, what we don't want to do is it's not helpful in that situation then for us to be overcome with grief and sadness because of the other person's. It's much more helpful to them for us to come alongside them, help them in a practical way, but still maintain our sort of balance, if you like. And this is where we come to the fourth one, upeksha. Upekkha in Pali, upeksha in Sanskrit. So metta is a Pali word as well. And Maitri is the Sanskrit alternative of it, if you like. It means exactly the same thing, but because of, I say, that change over from the Indian subcontinent over to the other parts of Asia where Buddhism was really sort of took off. We've got the two languages, but most of those words are kind of interchangeable anyway, mean the same thing. So upeksha, equanimity. It's not a word that we often sort of bandy around in normal conversation, equanimity. What I'd say about equanimity is it's to do with balance. It's about keeping an even keel. Now, it's about how we react to situations, our environment, other people, other beings as we go through life. And a lot in the Buddhist tradition would describes things like not being too kind of overexcited about something good that happens in one sense, because every good thing there could be another side to it. Maybe something that's good for one person doesn't pan out to be so good for somebody else. In the same way, something that seems to be really bad in life, actually there could be a flip side where there's something positive comes out of it. And it's the understanding of that sort of concept. And a lot of that comes out of this idea of non-duality. In our lives, in our upbringing, we constantly had it drummed into us that everything has got two sides to it. This is the idea of kind of what duality means, and it's kind of opposite to that concept of the universality where everything is one. It's one consciousness. So duality would see for every good there's also got to be a bad. For every up there's got to be a down. For every black there's got to be a white. Are you a goodie? Are you a baddie? It's like, it's the root of all politics. It's the root of every argument, because if I'm right, you must be wrong. If I'm wrong, you must be right, etc. There's always a good way of doing something and a bad way of doing something. This is the concept that our civilization, our upbringing brings to us, that there's always a trade-off, shall we say. Equanimity looks at stuff from a holistic point of view, and it says, you know what, things exist in this world, in this universe. There's not necessarily good, bad, better, worse, higher, lower. There's not necessarily that case. And the more we look into upeksha, equanimity, the more we start to realise that everything affects all of us in different ways. So, like I say, I could go outside and it could be raining and I could think, oh no, I don't want it to be raining. I don't like the rain. The rain makes me wet, makes me cold, makes me damp. I don't like it. Rain is bad. But for the farmer who's trying to grow some crops and there's been a bit of a drought and it's been baking and his crops won't grow, the rain is absolutely wonderful. But of course, we, in our wisdom, always have to, in our own egos, tell us ourselves that we're right. Our way's right. So if people agree with us, then they must be good people. If they disagree with us, they must be bad people. They're not going to be our friends. And unfortunately, this is how we go through life relating to things. It's that reactionary element that reacts to situations. And upeksha, equanimity, is learning to control that to the point where we're not reacting to everything. We're not reacting to people. And we see on the world stage all the time the problems with all of these things, all of the Brahmaviharas, the reason why there's wars today, the reason why there's might be domestic violence, the reason why there's crime of any sort, the reason why there's aggression, arguments, the reason why relationships break down, because I want somebody to be a certain way. If they're not going to be that way, then I'm going to break up with them. You know, the difference between that and love is love always brings together. And the key to the 4 Brahmaviharas is love. It's love that comes from the heart. It's love that comes from that Anahata chakra. It's a divine love that comes from above. So it's interacting again with our crown chakra. It's coming down. It's an unconditional love. It's a God-like love. It's a type of love that is not natural to us as human beings, because our natural reaction is from the survival mode, from that root chakra level where it says, if I don't kill you, you're going to kill me, so I'm going to kill you first. If I don't steal the food from you, then you might steal my food, so I'm going to steal yours first before that happens. And that's the way what we've built our civilization on today. Sadly, unfortunately, what we call civilization. Of course, it's not as civilized as showing love, kindness, friendliness, generosity, empathy, and all of these good qualities. I'm not expecting anybody to just get this straight away. I'm not expecting anybody to think, right, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do all this and I'm going to be a great person. Okay, just steady on a minute, because you know what, if it was that easy, then, you know, people wouldn't spend their whole lives trying to build these qualities. No, it's not an easy path to take. And everything that you've learned probably in your life will be telling you, but I've got to take this for myself. I've got to do this, because if I don't, then nobody else will. But the truth is, we can work through these things and we can find a better way. The more we are kind, loving, generous and friendly with people, even our enemies, even those we don't get on with, even those who try to rip us off, there's always a benefit in being kind, being friendly, being loving. Because at the end of the day, if we don't wind those people up, we don't annoy them, if we don't upset them, the chances are they're going to be less of a problem to us anyway in our lives. Not that that's the reason we're doing it, but that again is a byproduct of this. So this is going to be a journey. This is just my introduction to this. There's so much to see in it. There's so much to learn in it. And I'm hoping that you can come along on this journey with me, just as you came along possibly in the journey through the chakra system. but I'm excited to be sharing this with you. I'm learning a lot as time goes on, and I just wanted to share my take on an overview of what this is. I hope it makes sense. This is just a very brief introduction to this topic, but if it helped you and you liked it, then please encourage others by maybe pressing the thumbs up symbol at the bottom. If you think this is something that you'd like to follow through, then you may consider wanting to subscribe to this channel as well. And if you have any questions or any comments, anything that you'd like to share, I'd love to read your comments as well. So feel free to pop any comments that you have in the comments box underneath this as well. With that said, I will leave you at this point, and we'll catch up next time when we have a look at metta, loving kindness, and meditations that are related to that as well. So take care and namaskaram.